Here we have the introduction of Gary Brecka. You can listen for yourself what he have done in his past.
Alumni for the NFL. He also personally coaches Dana White from the UFC. He put the first clinic inside the UFC, Ultra Performance, Peak Performance. Works with David Beckham. Any soccer players in the house? He is David Beckham's coach. He's an elite superstar in the world of health. The first time I heard him about 7 months ago, I was just mind blown. I personally believe Gary Brecka will change the face of humanity. He's going to touch the world. You're going to be just blown away with what you're about to hear. I cannot wait to have him on the stage. But let's introduce him by way of video. Here we go. Grab a seat. Very good.
It's Gary Brecka. I'm a human biologist and biohacker. And over the last 20 years, I have become obsessed with the physiology of the human body and how we can optimize its form, function, and performance. I wasn't always on the side of optimal health. My career began on the opposite side, as I worked for more than 20 years in the insurance industry as a mortality expert predicting death to the month. Eventually, I realized there were living human beings on the other side of these spreadsheets and all of this data, and that I could see what risk factors were present keeping people from living longer, healthier, disease-free lifetimes. This realization was the tipping point, and it changed my career forever. That's when 10X Health was born. As I've researched, traveled, and studied the world leading pioneers in anti-aging and optimal health, I've unlocked the secrets of human performance, and I've led thousands of human beings on their journey to true, limitless human potential. Because we are not just meant to live, we are meant to thrive. And today, I'm blessed to share this journey with all of you.
Man, I am excited to be here with this build team, EXP 2022. Give it up for the Brent Go family and this entire production team. Yeah. Guys, my name is Gary Brecka. I'm a human biologist, researcher, and a biohacker. I always have a funny little situation when I get on stage because as soon as I tell people what I used to do, they become more interested in that than what I do today. So I'll just get that out of the way real quick. For 22 years, I was the lead mortality researcher for the insurance industry, which meant if I got 5 years of medical records on you and 5 years of demographic data, I could tell the insurance company how long you had to live to the month. And it didn't matter if you were 82 years old and terminally ill, or if you were 25 years old and perfectly healthy, no pathology, no disease, not taking any pharmaceuticals, and had perfect blood work. I could zero in on exactly how many more months you had left on Earth. The population database that I had access to was the largest population database in the world, 370 million lives, and if it could see the light of day, it never will, it would permanently change the face of humanity. But while I was predicting death, I began to have an epiphany. I began to realize, after spending more than a decade in this industry, that there were human beings on the other side of these spreadsheets, that it wasn't just data. I wasn't able to remove myself from the fact that I had no impact on their lives, and I was prohibited by law from contacting the patient or contacting the treating physician, even if I saw life-threatening drug interactions. And I was actually threatened before with prosecution for reaching out to patients to try to help them live a longer, healthier, happier life. So I decided to resign from that industry and spend the balance of my lifetime touching the face of humanity, teaching people how to live healthier, happier, longer, disease-free lifetimes. And I am not stupid enough to think that I can do this on my own, but I am smart enough to know that I can do it with all of you. So thank you. We're gonna build an army today. I'm going to weaponize you to go out and teach people how to live longer, healthier, happier lives. I'm going to dispel some of the biggest modern myths in medicine, and I'm going to prove to you right here from this stage that I can take any disease, any pathology, any ailment that a human being suffers from, and right here from this stage, I will tell you what raw material is missing in their body so you can replace it and watch that condition eviscerate. You guys ready to do it? Awesome. So this is one of those mortality predictions. I hate showing this slide. It reminds me of a bad time in my life. But I'll tell you, it was like sitting behind a thick glass wall and just watching blind people walk into traffic. The myths and that we have been fed about modern medicine and optimal health, we're going to blow through a lot of these today. But I have a saying. If I boiled 22 years of clinical research down to one sentence, this is the most impactful sentence that you will hear in terms of how long you have left on this earth. Your waking energy, the depth of your delta wave of sleep, your response to exercise, your hormone balance, your cognitive function. This is the single most important sentence that I think you will hear for the balance of your lifetime, and it is that the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. Nothing is more true than that statement. People say, Gary, how did you zone in on death to the month so accurately? I put that person on a hypoxic curve. You see, every human being in this room will leave this earth the same way. The definition of death is lack of oxygen to the brain. It's called hypoxia. Although we tend to think of it as an event, a gunshot wound, a bust, a heart attack, a stroke. But the truth is, everyone in this room is on a curve, a hypoxic curve. You are either managing oxygen well or you are managing oxygen poorly. The better you're managing oxygen, the longer, the healthier, the happier your lifetime will be. The more poorly, the earlier the onset of disease and all forms of pathology, and the earlier you will succumb to it. So for the balance of my talk today, I'm going to teach you what we can do to turn this around and set it in your favor. Woo! Dude, I like you guys, man. I get energy from this stuff, man. This is my drug of choice. Woo! Yeah, let's go. Love you guys. This is amazing. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, we're going to dispel some of these myths, and I'm going to give you an exercise to do today that will permanently change the trajectory of your life. Because most of the people that are sitting in this room are suffering from something, and about every person in this room, I bet you are operating at about 65% of your total potential. And I'm going to push it to 100 because we were meant to thrive. God put us on this earth to thrive. Yeah. No one came here to be average. And no one's going to leave here being average. So during this journey, I discovered two things in the mortality space. One, that the presence of oxygen was the absence of disease. The second was that disease and pathology, as we know it today, does not exist the way that we think it does. You see, we've gotten away from the faith in mankind and the faith in the human body and faith in human beings and the power of this to heal this. Right? There are 32 trillion cells in the body. Every day that you wake up, 300 billion cells that were with you this morning will not be with you tomorrow. Which means, write this down, November 7th is the most important day of the life in everybody in this room. Write down that day and I'll tell you why. Because on November 7th, of the 300 billion cells that replicate every single day in your body, on the 7th of November, not a single living cell that's in your body at this moment will be with you today. So it does not matter what you are facing. Mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. It does not matter what ailment you have. It doesn't matter what your body morphic image is. In 84 days, all 32 trillion cells will have renewed. And it depends on what energy, what frequency, what nutrition we send to those cells as to what kind of human being you will be on November 7th. Right? So I'm going to make you, who wants to be a superhuman? Okay. Well, let's go. So, on this journey, I make a big, bold promise, and I'm going to make it to you guys today. If you do what I ask you to do today, it will add 7 years to the lifespan of everyone in this room. It will add not just 7 years to your lifespan, it will add 7 years to your health span. That is a fact. I know it because I researched it for 22 years. So along this journey, I developed a mechanism to actually take people from where they are now into a state of optimal health, which starts with a genetic test, which I'm going to explain in a minute. I'm going to talk about IV therapies. You do not have to do these with me. Every one of you lives close to locations that actually do IV therapies, and I'm going to talk about specifically which ones can reverse the aging process, biologics, and something called the superhuman protocol. And my journey, when it really began to scale, it began with meeting a patient of mine named Grant Cardone. How many of you guys know who Grant Cardone is? Okay, yeah. So it began with Grant Cardone, and I wanted Grant Cardone to do a test, to do a genetic test, because I wanted to look at these biomarkers, because remember what I said was that everything that human beings face is just a deficiency, a lack of raw material in their body. We developed so many myths around modern medicine. I mean, how many of you know someone or know a family that's been affected by Alzheimer's or dementia? Does anybody know that the United States remains one of the few civilized nations in the world continuing to call Alzheimer's and dementia? Does anyone know what it really is? It's type 3 diabetes. It's insulin resistance in the brain. In 22 years, I didn't see a single early onset Alzheimer's demented patient that did not have 10 years of elevated blood sugar prior to. And we developed a lie about this disease that patients are losing their memory. That's not true. They are losing access to their memory. And access can be restored. Right? You see, the brain is such a voracious consumer of carbohydrate that 45% of all the carbohydrates we put into the body are consumed by the brain. Right? The brain is nasty. The brain is like the little Kim Jong-un of dictators. It just sits up there and takes everything for itself, right? If it wants calcium, it'll leach it from the bone. If it wants amino acids, it'll strip it from lean muscle tissue. And if it wants sugar, it will activate a nasty little receptor called the TAS1R2 receptor at the back of your tongue, and it will give you a dopamine reward for feeding it sugar. Most of us don't like sugar. Most of us are addicted to it. Right? There are entire laboratories in the United States of America full of PhDs dedicated to nothing but the study of one receptor on the back of